everybody. My name is Kritika, and I'm part of the marketing team here at Academy XI. I'll be moderating today's Fireside chat. I'm a UX designer, ask me anything. At Academy XI, we enable professional development and aim to address Australia's digital talent gap. By 2025, it's actually estimated that an average Australian worker will need 7 digital skills to close this gap. So in terms of the industry, that means newly skilled and retrained technology workers will need to increase 79% just in the next 3 years by 2025. That's mind-boggling. So there are various opportunities for you to learn about the emerging skills and the industry and network in our amazing community of design, tech, and business and marketing professionals. Today's Fireside Chat is a great example of this, and we hope that you will get your questions answered and gain some inspiration from our amazing guest today. Please allow me to briefly introduce our guest. From fashion design to UX UI design, she took the human-centered and digital design route after 15 years in the fashion industry. She graduated from our UX UI design course last year and is now helping to deliver cloud communications at Sylvia as their senior UX UI designer. In addition to her portfolio, she also serves as a speaker and mentor to our emerging designers at Academy XI. She's also hired 2 of our UX design grads to work with her at Symbio. What a community, hey? Here to talk about her career pivot, industry insights, and advice to young and upcoming designers, please welcome Sylvia Sue Connor. Hey, Sylvia.
Hi, everybody.
Over to you to introduce yourself and probably take us through your motivation towards UX and UI design.
So I've been a designer for many, many years. I have a Bachelor of Design from UTS, but I realized that UX UI is such an end-to-end process. And even though it was a new term to me, a relatively new term to me in the latest stage of my career, I realized that, everybody goes through UX UI in some degree or another, whether you start as a designer and have that massive design background or you don't, because UX is about problem solving. And, as you get older, there's been many, many situations, I'm sure everybody would relate to this, that you would have a problem that you would need to solve. And how would you solve that problem? That's the UX process. And UI, I suppose, comes hand in hand with, how well you appreciate visual hierarchy and things like that. And so there's a lot of graphic designers that also transition into UI design. It's a very natural progression. I mean, I did a lot of graphic design work as well in my design career. So to me, UX, UI is just something, I suppose, that's always been within me, in my spirit, but never solidly considered until recently. But in many ways, I suppose it's lovely for me in this stage of my life because I've got 2 young kids, and I think the thing is sometimes you get a little bit of freedom back when you're not on the road so much, going into a physical studio or whatever it is. But UX work can be done anywhere in the world, as I said, because it's all about problem solving. And if you are online, you can solve a problem. So yeah, that's where I come from.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Sylvia, for sharing that about yourself. So I'm going to jump in, and I see that we have a lot of potential students here and some people who are interested in breaking into the industry. So I'll ask a few questions first, which are more about your course here at Academy XI, and then we'll move on to some questions about the wider industry in general.
Sure.
So when you talk about the course, you finished the UX UI design course with us last year. Can you take us through what skills or major takeaways you got from this course?
I think what's really important about the course is that it gives you a really good overview. So from start to finish, what the whole design process looks like. And as I said, many people will come in and really be able to take away what they already know deep down. So it's more just to solidify the idea in their head that they already know what they could do, and then apply that through an end-to-end design process. So I think you get out what you put in, and you can learn some fresh skills such as, collaborating in a team. As I said, a lot of people already collaborate in teams, whether you are in a design team or you have been working in a hospital. It doesn't matter, a lot of the times it's really the course just lets you finish a project from end to end, so you can have a really good understanding and overview of the design process.
And you talked about end-to-end projects, right? So can you tell us a little bit about the projects that you worked on? I hear that you've worked with some clients as well during your time at XI. Can you talk more about that?
I was given this wonderful opportunity whereby we worked with EndeavourX. They're just such a wonderful bunch of people and really great with feedback. But that was our client project, whereby we were given the opportunity to look at their career site and make some improvements, some recommendations. So what we were able to do was to survey the people that are looking to move into tech that fit within the age range of what they were looking for. But really, we had a problem to solve. And so we took a step back and looked at how we could solve this problem by getting validation from, the target audience. So, so that was one of the projects. The other project was also with EndeavourX, but we were tasked with looking at the current chatbot and how to make it a little bit more engaging. But both these projects were just fantastic springboard into my current career, I suppose, because even though coming from a big design background, with these client projects under my belt, you could just show what you could do very, very quickly in a very short amount of time. And it's something concrete.
That's right. It helps you build that portfolio, especially at the beginning of your career, which is lovely. How long did it actually take you to finish your course and then land that job at Symbio?
It was funny because I started the course during the Sydney lockdown, or it was the first week in lockdown. I started the course. It was just timing, sometimes you're in the right place at the right time. I was looking to not make such a big commute anymore into the city every single day, such as my old design job. So serendipity wise, I suppose I started the course and I elected to do the Transform course, which was 3 months. And it was hectic. It was hard work. I expected it to be hard and it was hard. So the expectation was there versus the reality. And I got everything I needed out of it. So I put in the hard yards. I learned new software, which I think, let's be open-minded about software because they are tools. And so what a great way to get introduced to new tools if you haven't been using a lot of software. But yeah, from start to finish, 3 months. And I started looking to apply with different companies, and I've got a couple of job offers pretty much as soon as I finished. Within a week, I had a couple of concrete choices to sort of deep dive and to make a good decision about where I wanted to go.
And what about some of your colleagues who were in the class with you?
So I'm still really good friends with all of them. So there were only 6 of us who finished the Transform course, and from start to finish, we were just such good mates. I think that's the key ingredient to having a good design team, is to actually really value and trust each other. Everyone's going to be good at different things. And so I think it's really important to build that relationship whereby you trust that the other person is going to do the job. And obviously there's a healthy amount of discussion. But yeah, they're all doing really well, I believe. I think most of them have landed jobs. Yeah.
Right. This is a question we get from a lot of prospective students here at XI. They say that I'm coming from a non-design related background, right? So how do I pivot or transition into a career such as UX UI design? What skills or mindset do I need to have as a junior UX designer?
Look, this is a very common question, and I think something that potentially could put a lot of people off into transitioning into a design career. UX design is primarily about problem solving and about validation. And as I mentioned earlier, anyone could have those skills. From the day you're born, you're problem solving, believe it or not. So even though you might not think you are, but you are, you've got lots of problems that you have to then find different routes into thinking, how am I going to solve this problem? And normally it's by trial and error. So trial and error would be your testing. You trial something, see if the idea that you've got to solve a problem works. And you should be very quickly be able to get validation if you test with the right people. So it's about problem solving. Empathy is so important. I mean, there's not going to be any UX designers who are not going to be empathetic, because that is fundamental to being a good UX designer. If you are empathetic, if you're an empathetic person, you're going to look at a product and say, well, what are the pain points that are currently in this product? I'm going to ask the people who are using this product and really try and understand where they're coming from. Because as soon as you understand that there is a problem to solve, and you really try and get into the mindset of, what it is that they're struggling with, then you're going to be able to offer a better solution.
Yeah, putting yourself in the user's shoes. That's what we read everywhere when we're doing our UX courses as well. All right, so let's shift gear a little bit. What's happening in the Australian market right now in terms of UX? Can you paint us a picture of the big and small challenges of the industry?
So I think we're probably not as mature as overseas in terms of the understanding of what UX can bring to the table. So I know that UX has probably arrived at earlier in the States and in Europe. And a lot of companies in Australia, because of COVID, they've been sort of pushed into thinking more about, how do I get my product that exists at the moment into the digital world, and then into the hands of people who are always on their phones or on their laptops or on their tablets. So I think in that way, the challenge would be really about educating businesses to know the value of UX and what UX can bring to the table.
And then how does that relate to the number of jobs that are there out there in the market as well for UX designers?
Yeah, so I think the more people, so this is going to be like a snowball effect, I suppose. So the more UX designers enter the job market, the more that they will be able to sing at the top of the hill by adding value to the business. And then that business would show to another business that, oh, hey, look, I've got UX on my side and we're growing really well and very healthily. And so it would be like a snowball effect, I believe. So currently, to answer your first question, what the job prospects are, it's good. It certainly would be better than maybe even 12 months ago. But the challenge is still there. Because people don't know what they don't know. So businesses don't know what they don't know. If they don't know anything about UX, and they don't think they need UX. So it would be like a constant education piece.
Understandable. And then this is a popular one that we often get. And after this one, I think I'm going to move over to the Q&A because I can see some really good questions there. But we often have people ask us, what's a typical day in the life of a UX designer or somebody who works in UX? Can you give us an example from your life, like start to finish? What does that look like?
Oh gosh, lots of meetings, I think, because the main thing is because you're collaborating a lot. So you're not just collaborating with other UX designers. I mean, if you're lucky enough to work in a design team, then you'd be collaborating a lot with other designers, perhaps designers that specialize in different stages of the UX UI cycle. But if you are not as lucky to work in a design team and you're a one-man band, so you're doing end-to-end design work, that's also good because obviously you get to experience the whole lot. But it doesn't mean you're not collaborating. You'll be collaborating with your product manager, your product owner, your engineers, the back-end engineers, front-end engineers, if you have one. So there's a lot of collaboration, and it's never something that UX is not in its own bubble.
Yeah, it's wise words for sure. It is so much about collaborating and making sure that everything works together, because then you're kind of balancing user needs also with business needs and seeing how that
and what
comes
is
together.
Possible in technology to build what you and the business want to build for the client.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
yeah.
Is it feasible, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if you imagine a Venn diagram, you'd be sitting in the middle as a UX designer, designing a product that exactly what you said, what the business needs, what the user wants, and what is possible technology-wise to deliver that. That's a very valid question, and certainly it warrants the amount of research that you have already been doing, because research is your best friend, even in the UX career. I think you definitely have a lot of transferable skills. Don't forget, a lot of UX skills are actually soft skills. So you seem like you have a lot of those skills, because a learning designer, you would need to talk to the people that you are designing the learning material. And you've got to base that on something. So you already have that background, believe it or not, even though you might not think you have. And then also your upskilling in and Figma and any software, that certainly helps, because, you know, a lot of the times, if you are going to be an end-to-end designer, you need to obviously solve a problem, but how you show the solution would be down to how well you grasp the tools. So I think it's definitely a really good move to try and upskill in Figma and any other software. Yeah, so I think a lot of the times it's very valuable to be able to grasp tools, because that is something very concrete and you can demonstrate your capabilities straight away. Meaning, for example, your portfolio is going to look amazing. And also you might be given a challenge, a design challenge, when you first go into a lot of job interviews. If you grasp the tools really well, that would be definitely an advantage.
What tools specifically, Sylvia?
Figma, definitely. Mm-hmm. Miro would be another one.
Yeah.
That is industry-wide. FigJam, but that's like another Figma. Yeah. Like a Miro and a Figma, I suppose, but it's another whiteboarding tool. Yeah, they would be the ones that I'd be looking for specifically. And then all the other added bonuses would be your Adobe Creative Suite. A lot of graphic designers are whizzes in Adobe Creative Suite. I know I am, because I come from that sort of background as well. But I think it just really helps to top up your skills in software.
Absolutely.
But it's not the be all and end all, right? So if you're looking for something extra, that would be what I would look at. I think it depends on the business and how mature the UX function is. I think from the get-go, while you are studying, it is probably really important to look at UX UI as a holistic design process, whereby you should try and do it all. And then I think as you mature as a designer, you're probably going to realize and really understand yourself a little bit better, what you excel in, and then focus on that. It's really, really important, I think, that you understand that you can't do everything, and that you really need to, I suppose, try and get knowledge from other experts that might have better insights into, for example, if you are a UX heavy designer, you are really great at research and problem solving and not so good on tools. Try and really feed off your colleagues who might be better at tools, and don't think I can do it all, because maybe someone else has got better ideas than you. Yeah, I think it depends on what it is that you're looking for. So if you are thinking you are going to go heavy on UX because that's what you really want to do as opposed to UI, then you really need to show your thinking process in your portfolio. It might not be as pretty or polished as a UI portfolio. And it certainly doesn't stop you from making your portfolio, top to tail design process plus extremely polished looking. It certainly doesn't stop you from doing that. But I think you really need to understand what your strengths are and how you want to sell yourself in this end-to-end process. So, as I said, if you think that you are going to be quite a UX-focused designer, and this is the type of, they're the type of roles that you want to go for, really show how you approach a problem and show all the data, all the insights that you get from looking at a problem and then trying to show that in your portfolio. Probably no more than 6 if you have, mainly because a lot of hiring managers are really busy and they're looking at a lot of portfolios, as well as reading CVs, as well as doing their jobs. So I would say make it very good. So quality over quantity for sure. Good question. I don't know because I didn't hire myself, but what I think happened was that I certainly had what I thought was gonna get me an interview. And I think it's only a springboard to how well you do in the interview. So the portfolio is not your be all and end all, I wouldn't say, because you would still need to do interviews on top of that. And it's during the interviews how well you can explain your design process and what you could bring to the business. I would say keep at it, but maybe try something different. So don't keep doing the same thing in the way that, if you never refresh your portfolio, then perhaps if it's not going to get you noticed 6 months ago, it's not going to get you noticed now. So in that way, try different things and see if any of them stick. So keep doing the projects. I know that there are some volunteer work. Code for Australia, I think, is one of them from what I hear. I know there's some volunteer work that you can do to basically bump up your skills while you're looking for a job. I know it sometimes can be really difficult to work for free, but I think as a designer who's been working for many years, I have done my fair share of free work as well, because I know that eventually it would lead to something. But also look at it as a way to practice your skills. And perhaps once you get hired, it would all be worth it. $25 to $35. So that would be if you work only on Monday to Friday, you'd be allocating 7 hours if you're working off 35. Yeah. 7 hours is a full day of office work. I would say I did more than that.
In your UX course.
Yeah. So serendipity, as I said, serendipity was what happened was it was during the entire Sydney lockdown. I really had nothing else to do except to just be in my house and do my projects. So I suppose maybe it was it is not fair to compare, but I also have young kids, and I understand that I have personal responsibilities, but I am also very goal orientated. So I knew that if I just put in the hard work now for 3 months, then what's at the end would make it all worth it. So I would probably say, it's fair to say that I probably stopped my life for about 3 months, and I just went really hard in the course. Any skill that you pick up is good. It's going to be beneficial to you. So having said that, it's not required, it's not something that someone is going to look over your shoulder and say, you haven't put in enough work. But I think the quality of work probably speaks for itself. after the course, because whatever it is that you put in your portfolio or at the interview process, you might just be able to explain your process a little bit better if you actually made the effort or like above and beyond during the course. Great question. The junior designer that I got on board comes from a podiatry background. I would say that's kind of like where you are coming from in terms of, you know, dealing a lot with the human body, but and the health aspect of things. I would say he's brilliant at his job, because from day to day for quite a few years while working as a podiatrist, he was diagnosing problems. You know, he was talking to people about how they were feeling, what hurts, what we could do to make it better. Those are kind of all the things that you do as a UX designer anyway. So obviously having the people skills really help, because it just gives you that extra level of being able to ask someone openly about what are their pain points, for example. So I hope that answers your question. I mean, do not be discouraged, I suppose, because you definitely have something to bring to the table.
Absolutely. I would say a majority.
And yes, also work on Figma.
All right. So if there's one thing they can work on, it's Figma.
It's because it's tangible.
Okay.
You know, it's tangible. You can look online and like look on YouTube and learn Figma. It's something that you can actually do. Whereas, you know, if I say to someone who's perhaps not the biggest extrovert, oh, improve your people skills.
Yeah.
It's harder to grasp, you know, how that could help, or how to even do that. But anyone can work on work on software. Yeah. I think it's a very sort of it's not a one size fits all question, and it's a very like case by case basis. I would think that if you have no design background and you come out, you might have it might be a little bit more handicapped to look for a senior position, a UX position, rather than starting at a junior mid-level. However, having said that, I've heard people coming out with no design background and then going straight into a senior job, because they could explain the design thinking process, and because they're at the right place at the right time with the company looking for something very specific that they could give. So I think it's really a case-by-case basis and really hard to answer. So I'm sorry if I kind of skirted around that question a little bit. In terms of pay, again, case-by-case basis, but if you're starting as a junior UX designer, I would say the benchmark as a junior UX designer would be more than what you would get as a graphic designer, a junior graphic designer. That is a industry benchmark. I would say as a UX designer, you probably would be able to do all your work remotely. However, it would be up to the company to implement any sort of mandate to come to the office. Normally, it might be during team days. So sometimes you do kind of get a little bit more out of like a collaborative space if you're all together socializing and doing a little bit of work as well. Be as approachable as possible, and also because they're going to ask you anything that they want to ask you, right? So make sure you are as approachable as possible and as empathetic as possible, and aim yourself with the knowledge of how you solve a problem, probably by how you approach your testing, and how you solve a problem is possibly what they're really interested in.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just about the attitude, right? You
Yeah.
bring to the table.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you so much, Sylvia. You shared your story with us today, and I think you've shared a lot of really interesting insights about the industry and how to break into it, especially for anyone who is a novice in UX and UI. So we've all learned a lot. I learned a lot today, and I hope that all of you here on the call as well have been able to take something away from Sylvia's story. Thanks once again, Sylvia.
Amazing. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
All right, bye-bye.
Taking the time.
Thank you.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon. Bye.